August 480 BCE. A king sits on a golden throne carved into the hillside above a narrow pass in northern Greece. Below him stretches an army so enormous that the dust from its march hangs over the horizon like a storm cloud. Infantry from every corner of an empire, cavalry, archers, the legendary Immortals. A force ancient writers claimed could drink rivers dry simply by passing through. The king's name is Xerxes, and he has not crossed half the known world to win a battle. He has come to end one. Ahead of him lies a strip of land so narrow that, in places, only a few dozen men can fight side by side. Standing there are a handful of Greeks, farmers, citizens, warriors. At their center, 300 Spartans led by a man who already knows he is going to die. King Leonidas. By every calculation, what happens next should be impossible. The Persian Empire has conquered kingdoms larger than Greece without slowing down. Cities have surrendered before the first arrow was fired. Entire nations have bent the knee rather than face the great king. Yet for 3 days, this unstoppable machine crashes into a wall of bronze and cannot break it. And when that wall finally falls, it won't be because the Spartans were overwhelmed. It will be because one Greek chooses to betray the others. But to understand why Thermopylae became one of history's greatest last stands, you first have to understand the man sitting on that throne. This wasn't simply an invasion, it was revenge. 10 years earlier, Xerxes' father, Darius, had launched his own campaign against Greece. The Persian Empire ruled lands stretching from Egypt to the borders of India. Its armies were larger, richer, and better equipped than anything the divided Greek city-states could hope to field. The campaign should have been routine. Instead, on a plain called Marathon, a smaller Athenian force charged headlong into the Persian line and shattered it. The invaders retreated. The empire bled. And for the first time in living memory, the great king had been humiliated. Darius spent the rest of his life preparing to return. He never got the chance. When he died, his son inherited everything: the throne, the army, the greatest empire on earth, and a debt that had to be repaid. Xerxes would not simply defeat Greece. He would make sure the world never forgot what happened to those who defied him. He ordered engineers to build floating bridges across the Hellespont so that an entire army could march from Asia into Europe. When storms destroyed the first bridges, he reportedly ordered the sea itself whipped and chained for daring to stand in his way. Then he rebuilt them. Supply depots appeared across the countryside. Roads were prepared. A canal was carved through a mountain peninsula, so his fleet would not have to risk dangerous waters. It was less like planning a military campaign and more like watching an empire reshape geography itself. As the Persian host advanced, city after city surrendered. Envoys arrived demanding only 2 things: earth and water, the ancient symbols of submission. Most gave them willingly, 2 did not: Athens and Sparta. Years earlier, when Persian ambassadors demanded surrender, the Spartans had thrown them into a pit and told them to find their own earth and water. It was an act of defiance. Now the price was coming due. And here is the part most people never hear. Leonidas did not march north with only 300 Spartans because Sparta lacked soldiers. He marched with 300 because Spartan law said the rest could not come. A sacred festival was underway. Tradition forbade a full military campaign. The ephors allowed only one desperate compromise. The king could take his personal guard and buy Greece enough time to prepare. Then came a prophecy from the oracle at Delphi. Either Sparta would fall, or one of its kings would die. Leonidas listened. Then he made a decision that would echo across 25 centuries. He chose only men who already had sons. Not because they were the strongest, because he believed none of them would ever return. He wasn't gathering an army. He was choosing the men who would make a last stand. And together, with thousands of allies from across Greece, they marched toward a place called Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, a narrow corridor trapped between towering cliffs and the sea. A place where numbers would mean almost nothing. A place where very soon the greatest empire on earth would discover that courage can be far more dangerous than fear.